Welcome to our very first Candy's Dirt webinar, where the discussion today is about creating home offices that really work. I'm Candace Evans, founder and publisher of CandysDirt.com, and I'm in my home office where I've always worked. This post-pandemic world has changed the way we all live and work. And I'm going to put my analyst hat on here, my real estate analyst that I do all the time, of course. And I'm going to tell you that companies are really giving a second thought to their commercial office and real estate needs. They're thinking, do we really need this big office space when for the last month and a half, so many employees have been working and pretty darn well from home? Do we really think that we're going to have these expensive offices? Well, if we're all going to go home and have wonderful offices, we need experts evaluating their infrastructure and technology needs. And we are consulting today with a panel of experts to discuss home office needs and technology to really make those home offices work. In fact, just this week, there was home security in the news. 2 federal class action lawsuits have been filed on behalf of hundreds of ADT customers who recently learned that their accounts with the home security company were compromised by a former employee. Those lawsuits were filed Monday, and they come weeks after ADT alerted more than 200 of its customers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that this former employee had unauthorized access to their security systems over the last several years, including the video streams of in-home cameras. Can you imagine that if you're working at home and someone else has access to all your information? We're not even talking about an intruder. We are talking about an employee for the home security system. Can you imagine working on confidential files? So we really don't want to have that happen, and we have a lot to talk about today. So let me get right to our panel here. I have Chris Vaughn and Alan Cowell of Starpower. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hello. Chris is a modern-day maverick for residential and commercial technology integrations. His 20-plus year career in building networking solutions has made him a trusted and respected expert in his field and a true way shower in the Starpower universe. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Alan. Hello, Alan.
Good afternoon. How are y'all?
Fine. Alan has spent over 7 years serving Starpower's most elite clientele. We love hearing that at Candy's Dirt. As the lead installer and programmer, overseeing these VIP clients, he's mastered some of the most sophisticated installations in the country, which is awesome. And you're going to tell us all about those today, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I don't want to ever skip a beat on this, but Mark Molthan is with us, one of my favorite builders in the whole of North Texas, and even does some stuff up in Lake Tahoe, right, Mark?
Did some.
You did some.
Hi, Candy, how are you?
Mark in the Platinum Home Team are among the top 2% of home builders in North Texas, and he has been one of our very best, highly vetted builders on Candy's Dirt since we launched our site more than 9 years ago. Mark has been voted a Dallas Best Custom Home Builder every year since 2006 by almost every publication in town. His homes are known for remarkable quality and attention to detail, and a lot of security and a lot of cool networking. So welcome, Mark.
Hi, Candy.
Hi.
How you doing? This is pretty cool that you did this. This is really neat being the first one too.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an inaugural one for Candy's Dirt. We're going to be doing a lot more. And you tell me that you've been doing this like almost every day for the last 30 days.
If you would have asked me about 45 days ago what Zoom was, I would have no clue. And now I feel like I'm a Zoom expert and been forced into it. And I actually love it. It's been super efficient and really cool. And I can see why you're doing this, because we've been as efficient, if not more efficient, working in this environment. So I can see why this is an important webinar.
Well, it's great. And I think when we talked, you said that like you were also prepared from day one.
Yeah, we early on, we were prepared to be able to go remote because we've moved everything to the cloud. So we could access our files, our plans, our data from the cloud. So when this did happen and someone couldn't come in, they could remote into and have their desktop wherever they're at. So we were ready for it without being ready for it. So.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of things here. If you're just joining us, come on in. You know, I think, is there a new etiquette to being late to Zoom? You can just come on in. No one really knows you're late. It's great. I was just introducing our panel of experts. I think you can see them at the top of the screen. I'm Candy with Candy's Dirt. And I'm coming to you from my home office here again in Preston Hollow. This webinar again is our very first, and a couple of housekeeping things. You might want to grab a pen and a paper to jot down any notes you have. Old-fashioned pen works fine. Feel free, afterwards we're going to send you some highlights and a survey, but make notes and take notes about what interests you the most. Take notes of everyone's name too. As a thank you for attending, you're entered to win a bottle of some super duper wine, which I'm going to get more information on in a minute. What is our wine today? Should we tempt everyone with it? Alan, do you have the wine?
I don't happen to have it.
Daniel might have the details.
Yeah, I've got 18 bottles of a mix of red and white wine. A lot of it is from Spain. All really good wine from a few local companies. So
Well, we know that everyone's been drinking more wine, so just get into our terrific giveaway as a thank you for attending. You're already entered into this, and I will remind you about this, and don't forget to remind me about it, because we can't drink all that wine ourselves, so we're going to need to share it. Okay, let's get going here. Let's talk about working from home. What does it look like today versus it did, like, say, 2 months ago? I mean, it's different. Alan, let's start with you. What do your elite clients look for in a great home office workspace? Like, they probably were a little bit ahead of most of us because they always wanted to be at home. So tell us what it looks like, what they're doing.
Yeah, you're definitely seeing obviously a lot more people, as this is the new norm of everything. So first off, they typically want that professional look. They want to have a nice setup, a nice background, a good work environment to where, like I said, they're not going to be disturbed. You're not going to have kids and pets running through the background, things along those lines. So having a good dedicated space to give that professional look is one of the most important things. Obviously, organization, having things where you need them, where you can quickly access them. That's going to be a big thing as well. Flexibility is we need to be able to move around and make shift. If you have, a couple of different attendees, some more people with you joining you in the home, that's going to be a big thing that they look for. And then, of course, ease of use. If you can't use it, the best setup, it really isn't worth anything. So it's got to be easy to use so that pretty much anybody can get in there, work with whatever, Zoom or Skype or whatever type of software we're working with in order to make all these things work.
Terrific. That's great. Well, have you noticed that they're also building the kind of the Zoom backgrounds or the studios, or is that something that we've just started seeing more recently? Because Zoom is not that old, but I mean, have you noticed that?
Right. Yeah. That's some of the newer things that's up and coming is, again, we're trying to keep that professional look so people don't know that we're necessarily sitting at home in our kitchens and things like that. Having those backdrops and everything to really portray yourself as a professional. That's the new thing that's coming around now.
I mean, you can almost have a TV studio in your home.
Exactly. Yeah. You can be on the moon or, in China or wherever you want to be. So
it's pretty amazing. It's great. Chris, let's swing over to you. Let me ask you about network needs for a home office. The network is really the workhorse here. I mean, that's kind of the platform that we all have to start with. Does every home have them? Obviously, Mark will tell us about building them into a new home, but I mean, tell us the network story. How important is that?
Well, nowadays it's completely crucial. For years we've been implementing some higher end networks just on our side of the industry because of all the AV work we do, especially automation, and you want to control your home. Everything's done with apps. So it's always been crucial for us. The last 5 years we've spent a lot of time on that side of it. And we have been implementing what we would call an enterprise system in homes. So it's what you'd find in your normal business, that kind of strength and reliability that we've had to put in homes. 5 years ago, it was a heavy duty task. It was extremely expensive. If you're doing a full automation system, it made sense. Nowadays it's obviously become that much more important. There's more devices in the home. And having something that is really fast and reliable is the biggest key to that. And part of that is making sure you've got the right speeds, right, the gear to cover the speeds. And it's not just how many more devices you have, from an iPad to an iPhone, and everybody has one. But now with everybody working at home, that's even more critical. The last thing you need is dropping signal. slow speeds, buffering. It's terrible. So this has added a larger emphasis, I would say, on what we're already doing. For us, we've been equipped to do it and have been doing it for a while. So it's kind of nice. It's second nature for us to be able to make sure everyone is ready to go and has very few hiccups as they're transitioning to working from the home.
Let me ask you about retrofitting. And by the way, you guys feel free to pop in on this, because I think a lot of people watching this are going, can I only do this if I build a new home, or can I retrofit my home, my 20-year-old home, my 40-year-old home, or my historical home? I mean, can we talk about that for a little bit?
Oh, of course. And that's kind of the nice thing. With the wireless access points, always the preference is going to be if you have the availability. And obviously new homes it's easy enough to do. We pre-wire for everything imaginable. And we pre-wired for specific locations. So on a newer build, obviously it's easy to do. On the older homes where we just don't have access to get wires back to where you might want them,
Right.
we have several other systems that are available that are wireless. And there's a lot of DIY stuff that's available, off the shelf stuff that you can pick up, and some of it honestly works just fine. Part of that truly is determining what size the house is. And the older homes make it a little bit more difficult to DIY that side, because from a construction standpoint, you have a lot more heavier materials and a lot of obstructions, if you would, structurally. I think more so in some of the especially older homes than you do in some of the newer ones. So, but there's always a solution. That's where Alan and I especially come in, where we can help with determining what are the best options. And to be frank with you, is business, but at the same token, part of what my job specifically is evaluations. So it's not always about making the sale. Sometimes it's just about saying, hey, you know what, this will work great for you, and if you need any help, let us know. And that's part of what we
Chris,
do.
I've got a question.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
asking for a friend. If my son and daughter of this friend were sons playing modern warfare, Call of Duty, whatever it is, he's playing it on one computer. Daughter's is doing Zoom classes on another computer, and the father of such daughter of this friend of mine is trying to do a Zoom call, and we're getting some network lag, or you're having some problems. Are you the guys that you'd call to help figure that out, or help figure out the solutions and all that?
Without a doubt. And that's kind of one of those things, if you just jump back and look at 5 years ago, as an example, service wise, we'd have customers, we would install a Netflix, and it's like, oh, what's Netflix? Yeah. And they can't use it. Why can't you use it? I don't have enough speed. And it's funny because something like that we'd have, required like a 10 megabyte signal. And it's amazing that was hard to come by. So there is a little bit of a chunk of that actually has to do with service provider. It's just ensuring you have the right kind of package for the house and for your usage, and getting enough speed input into the house first and foremost. And then where we would come in is help with that and deciphering, okay, what makes sense? Where can we boost it in different areas? Honestly, it comes back to the more things you can plug in versus running wireless, the better you'll always be, especially for gaming. It's a monster. But yeah, we definitely have solutions that can help fix.
Because everything's homeschooling now, so they're using a lot of video and a lot of bandwidth, and then the gaming on top of that, and then actually the people that have to work at home make it a little bit difficult too to even get it to fit into that little sector. It can be overwhelming for some that figuring this out, and so there would be someone like you guys to come in and help. It's overwhelming for me. I can't imagine, just trying to figure out where do you start.
Oh, and it can be, and that's part of the challenge is just that overall, all of a sudden there's a drain on what used to work just fine.
Right.
I said, as long as on the service provider side you have plenty of signal, we can definitely help with boosting that up. A good wireless system will allow you better speeds and better connectivity and less buffering, if you would.
Yeah.
So can we talk for a minute about wireless versus the wired? I caught what you said there about the more stuff you plug in, the better. Is that can you just tell us why? I mean, totally neophyte here. Why?
Well, anything that's going to be streaming or pulling a lot of your service is always best to be plugged in. And it's so easy nowadays. You get a brand new smart TV and you bring it home and you plug it in and it asks you, do you want to connect wireless? And you say, sure, why not? But then you're using that TV to pull Netflix or YouTube on its own. And then you have Apple TVs and Blu-ray players, and almost everything in the audio video world now is requiring an internet signal to function, especially with all the streaming applications we have. And then you couple that with your iPhone, your iPad, so all of a sudden you have a ton of devices where everybody's trying to grab that same signal, and everybody, every device wants it really bad. So
Right.
it creates issues. So the more you can put those devices on hardwire, even if it's your laptop, if you can get your laptop plugged into a network jack, which we have been for 20 plus years wiring a house, we still have a network, a computer jack and a phone jack.
Yeah.
Keep hardwired, the better the wireless stuff will work inevitably.
Very cool. Okay, Mark, let's get over to building a better home office. That starts with designing the space correctly, the layout, the furniture, the small footprint appliances, and the soundproofing, which is something I never even thought about until we all started working from home, because I have a his and her office and I need to soundproof it between the two of ours. So I'll let you kind of talk about that and tell me that I love what you told me when we talked a few months or weeks ago about this, and you said that you just immediately had everything ready to go right from the start as soon as we got into lockdown.
Well, part of it is how you manage your data, and I think Chris could probably talk about that a little bit more on where you save everything. So where you save stuff and you can access it, so you can access it from the road or from wherever it is. And we were able to set up our company where we save everything in the cloud, meaning not on a stick spot. So we were able to open up. I will tell you, I got a funny phone call, Candy, the other day. Is we built this beautiful house for these people and put all this money into this study, and they wanted partner desk. Well, that was like 120 days ago. Now they don't like being partners when they got to work at home for 60 days in a row. Having a partner desk and stuck in a room together for 60 days is like, I think they call it COVID divorce, COVID rehab, and something else. And a COVID baby. I think they were heading towards COVID divorce, sharing a partner's desk. So
a partner desk. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was a cool idea. It was really great that you could sit there and share a table and a desk, but now they don't. Now they need the soundproofing. So when you're doing 2 Zoom calls in the same room on the same desk, that's a little tough, I guess. So
totally.
The design wise, what we're here, I mean, it's
speaking of which, excuse me for 1 second. I'm having technical difficulties.
Uh-oh. House is on fire.
There we go. That is a battery backup that likes to make noise once in a while, but go ahead, keep talking.
All right. So anyway, the design of the rooms have changed. And so like you said, you're trying to be private, and you've got a kid running into the room or kids screaming in the other room. You've got a husband that's walking behind you in his pajamas with a coffee cup.
Or like that with the naked, remember the girl?
Even that scenario. So people are trying to get to spaces where the offices that we're seeing now, they don't want them as big, but they need them private. They need them to look good, like have a horse painting that you stuck up behind you and all that pretty things, but also to have good lighting. The lighting is critical to make sure that you're not look like you're sitting in a dark hole. They've also wanted view. We've moved these studies upstairs so they can see out and see somewhere. So they're asking to convert, and also where if you're doing these type of calls and working, it's a quiet remote spot in the house that it's a flexible space, so it could be used for multiple uses. So it's all evolving, and it's been evolving really quick over the last 60 days. So, but it's that new study off the entryway that's open to the front door, that's that's gone. I mean, it's been dying, but it's gone. I mean, that's gone.
I want to remind
it's going to go with the dining rooms, I think.
Let me just remind everyone really quick, if you have questions, you can go to the chat box and actually put a little question in there. Just type a question while you're listening. I wanted to remind everyone about that. But I'm so glad you said that, Mark, because I never thought who wants an office as soon as you walk into the home? Because my office, I'm not going to show you my office. It's a mess. If you turn this, thing,
Right.
I've got papers and I've got notebooks and I've got 10,000 iPads, everywhere. I don't want people to see that. Plus, if you're bringing files home from work, those are probably confidential. So who in the world thought about putting an office right off the entryway? That just doesn't make sense.
And I'm sure Alan and Chris can comment on this, but a lot of people are having like multiple monitors. Like they're having
Yes.
2 to 3 monitors, and they're
Yeah.
having like these workstations are actually interactive workstations. And so that looks like a NASA control station, and you don't want that when you walk in your front door. I mean, so like the true working at home is really cool, and it's proven that you can be more efficient, and so they're making spaces to do that. I mean, it's people are converting spots to do it. I mean, even I'm giving them car spaces to come in and convert a garage into making a work studio.
Absolutely.
And that's probably a better way to say it. It's like a work studio,
Work studio.
than it is a office.
Mhm. I love it. And you also mentioned dual purpose. So you could go upstairs and you could do an office upstairs, and you could maybe make that a potential guest room at some point, or what other dual purpose could you have in there?
They've been the one that we've converted in, that we went in and had some guys go wire it, was a exercise room. So the exercise room had a nice window, and they put it was like they took a corner of that exercise room, and it from the Zoom call, it looked like the best work studio in the world. And then the other side, it was a bench press and a treadmill and the other items that you could use. So I guess you get off your Zoom call and go work on your bench press max, or work your stress off from the Zoom call.
There you go.
Get on the treadmill. So, but
Hey, actually, that's
multiple
great.
use spaces. So,
Well, one of the things that I've been kind of researching, and by the way, I just, the staff at Candy's Dirt, we have been working so hard during this whole, 2 months, because number one, we work from home anyhow. And number two, we're trying to do this is keep up with, this is a tremendous home story. This whole pandemic thing is a home story. We're now in our homes. We're told to stay there. So we're looking around and we're going to say, hey, we're going to make these homes more adaptable to our needs. And one of those is the gym, the in-home gym, because, gyms are going to have to be, people are going to think twice about going back to those for a while, although I love the way Cooper's been doing it. But Alan, I wanted to switch over to you for a minute and say that we've talked about tangibly designing a home office, but what about, and this is where I'm completely lost, and this is totally your show, what about the technologically way of doing it? How do you design a better home office for web conferencing? And can you kind of walk us through those needs, like the cameras or the in-ceiling mics? My God, that's a brilliant idea to actually install a mic, and the lighting that you could do.
lighting is key. I need lighting.
Yes.
God, I need lighting bad.
Yeah, and that's like you said, is we're all doing more and more of it. Obviously, we need that professional space. So, if you think about it, whenever you were in the office, you would actually go into a conference room anytime we were doing something like this. And now it's everything's being brought into the home.
This is the conference, right?
Yeah, this is your conference room.
Right.
So, and again, like you said, people are having multiple monitors and things like that. People are wanting that same level of equipment in their homes now to be able to continue on doing what they used to be able to do. So, one of the things, obviously, is our camera. This is the main focal point. Everybody's staring at that. That's how you portray yourself out there. So, everybody's got an iPhone or an iPad, or, almost all of our computers now have a laptop camera built into them. But there's definitely something to be said to having a dedicated camera. One that could potentially, if you're actually at a whiteboard doing some presentation work, one that could actually kind of track you and follow you so you're always in frame, as well as just the video quality of it all, just giving you that nice, sharp, clear image so that people can actually see the things you're writing on a board, or if you're brainstorming in session and keeping notes, that everybody can actually keep up with what's going on. So there's definitely something to be said to having a dedicated web camera there. Another thing of it is like you said, the microphones. Everything's got a built-in microphone, but actually having the ability to either have a wireless microphone actually pinned to you, kind of like whenever you go to a presentation and you're standing in a large group of people, you have that lapel mic on you to where you can walk around and you're not tied and getting that kind of echoey effect or losing communication as you get further away or turn your head, something along those lines. And then there's also a lot of technology involved with the overhead ceiling mic microphones that you can actually mount either overhead. You can do a desktop microphone, but those are much more typically omnidirectional, so that they're looking from voices coming from all around, not just directly pinpointed to one location. So again, if you're moving around the space or you have multiple people in a room, everybody can be clearly heard, as if they were all standing directly in front, holding a microphone directly up to their mouth. So the other thing that we look a lot at is presenting devices up onto a display of some sort. So doing like a wireless presentation, so that if you needed to be able to, hey, let's look at this screen real quick. Well, hey, I've got an idea over here, and so it's constantly pinging back and forth. The ability to have multiple people connected to one device, to where you can have either multiple images up there, or take turns just by pressing a button, and change that around, really changes the dynamic of the workflow, as where you're not having to pass cables back and forth and, hold on, let me get this image up. Well, hold on, I've got this over here. It makes things flow a lot more smoothly, as well as is a lot more productive, because you can actually connect these things all up there together. And then, of course, we step into, again, ease of use and flexibility of it all. It's really nice to have some of the control systems that we have nowadays that can kind of automate all this for us. So that's one thing that we've always done in our conference rooms. In the commercial side of it, you walk in, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to have a bunch of remotes laying around on tables and where did this go and where did that go? So we'll do touch panels or dedicated touch panels on the tabletop dock that we can actually bring into the home now. So you walk into a room, and again, is there multi-purpose? I want to watch TV right now. You tap a button, everything comes on, goes to the proper input. Whenever we want to go to a web conference or a Zoom meeting, something like that, you can have another button to where inputs change over, lighting automatically dims down, shades in the background will come down. If you had a backdrop for your webcam, that could absolutely, drop down as well. And it's all flexible, and just by a press of a button, it does everything for you. So there's not a 20-minute setup process in order to try and get these things done. It's a simple tap of a button, and everything will kind of be ready to go with you within just a couple of seconds. So
That's a dream.
yeah, and again, like I said, that's something that everybody's going to, and it's very convenient. It's very nice to have, and it takes a lot of the stress work out of trying to figure out what goes where and making it all work. Whenever you can walk in, tap a button, everything's already ready to go from you. And again, as these things pop up at a moment's notice, hey, I've got this client that needs to meet right now. You can step into that flexible space. You can quickly tap a button. Everything goes exactly where you need it, and boom, you're ready to go.
I love it.
Does it come with a filter that does your hair and makes you like 5 years younger?
Yeah, I don't know if it's got the Snapchat filters on it to kind of clean you up a little bit, but as I could probably use here now today. But yeah.
I'm trying to find a program. My husband's calling all around his plastic surgeon friends so I can get a program to see what I look like with gray hair. I kind of want to see, maybe I'll just let it go gray, or white or something. We'll see, I'm sure there's a program for that. And then pretty soon we'll probably be able to touch up our roots before we go on, right?
That's right. Everybody will be camera ready within a couple of seconds. So.
I know, it's great. Chris, what about the network? You mentioned the need for fast, reliable connections, which, oh my God, we totally feel that need here at Candy's Dirt. But what are some of the options here?
Well, the options are that nowadays you pretty much have to build a system that's based on a gigabit solution. The speeds have increased by 100 times what they were available in areas. Dallas, Highland Park, a lot of those areas were for the longest time difficult for us because the infrastructure wasn't set as such we could get fiber optics and get good service providing sides of that. So just the trick to that is everything we build nowadays is built on not just what is available today, but what we're anticipating is going to be around the corner. Truth be told, works nowadays, they're moving so fast and changing so rapidly, not just the speeds, but what they're capable of in handling the formats that they're doing it at. It's amazing. If you ever get a chance to look at a wireless access point and where they show you a picture of all the little beams that are radiating out of it, it's almost like a piece of art. It's interesting looking. But everything we're trying to do is build on getting you something that's the fastest speed of handling what you're getting into the house. Again, that's always going to be crucial, is what's coming in for service, and a reliable service provider. Without dropping names, there are a few of them out there that just you have difficulty with. I'd seen a little note in the chat in regards to a system and a provider, and there are some service providers that in certain areas are just difficult to work with. Their service is unreliable, so that makes it hard just from the get-go of not having a good, steady, solid provider where your service is working 95% of the time. From a solution standpoint internally, there are good wireless ones we can implement that are where we can't get a wire. The stuff that we're using is a little bit more intense, and we do that very deliberately. Part of the issues that you'll have is if you're in a fixed office and some of your stuff's wired and you have a wireless scenario and you're in that spot, normally that'll work just fine. Where you run into issues is in tracking, is in moving through the house, especially if you're working from your iPad and maybe you're just answering emails. You're not going to do your conference till you sit into an office space or your dedicated space, but it's just transitioning through your home, and the signal strength is going to balance and vary all over the place. And that's probably where the most difficult thing I think we run into is just that aspect. Alan and I have been working on a project we were discussing in depth on, how do we make it so you have less limitation? And part of the issue is a lot of your cheaper and over-the-counter side of stuff is once you connect to it. So you wake up in the morning, maybe you reset your phone, and your phone Wi-Fi connects to to what is closest to you. So it's kind of linked to that, and it sees that. Well, as you leave the master bedroom, you may walk to the other side of the house, and it's still connected to that closest point that you connected to earlier, and it doesn't let go of it. And that's what happens to be the tendency. So you're all of a sudden you have really poor connection, really poor speeds, and it's like, well, it was great when I was on the other side of the house. Well, in the quick fix is if you just go in and reset your wireless, turn it off, turn it back on, it's going to connect to the closest WAP or the closest wireless point that's near you, so you'll regain that speed and that connectivity. But who wants to constantly have to stop and choose and re-choose? And so the solutions that we put in are designed where they hand off. So as you walk through the house, it sees the signal's getting weak, it sees a strong one's right around the corner, it hands it off. And we use systems that are called unleashed just for that reason. In our big systems, a lot of times we have a controller in there, and its sole function is to make sure everybody gets the same amount of speed, the same amount of connectivity, and it manages how you connect. And so it'll give you a new option and drop a bad one. And it does it all automatically. But those are a lot more elaborate systems that we'll put in. And those are normally going to be in a lot larger house that needs a lot more coverage on that side of it.
Very cool.
I'd say we get a lot of complaints on people losing signal in their house or their Wi-Fi gets, because it's not an unleashed system. So for me, it's critical that you get someone like Chris and Alan that are knowledgeable in it to install the right equipment. The other thing, Chris, I think you ought to touch on is you may go get the 100 gig up and down pipe put into your house, but if the right switches aren't in there, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're still getting slow data because you don't have the right switches. And I think you having a consultant like Chris and Alan come in and look at this stuff, they can get the right equipment in to make sure you're using the plumbing right, that you're coming. Like I always consider like plumbing. You got so much data coming in, but if you don't have the right pipes going through the house, you can't get the water pressure that you want. Is that a good analogy? Or
Absolutely.
No, that is perfect. That's just kind of one of the, you kind of nailed it on the head with that. And unfortunately, a lot of people will rely on what their service provider tells them. And we see that quite a bit, where we'll get them to order service, or even if we're not involved, the guy comes out, he hooks up your internet, and he's like, oh, here's some wireless stuff for you. And they automatically assume that's going to work. And unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't, or they'll actually offer for you to buy some additional little pieces you plug in somewhere upstairs, and that's supposed to help. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it may work as long as you're sitting right next to it. But it doesn't do you much good if if you're sitting in that odd chair in that corner of that room that just has no signal. So it doesn't have to be something elaborate and overly expensive. To be honest with you, we do handle some of your what they call your mesh network setups, and those are just a little bit more heavy duty than what you'd find that you buy over the shelf. The only difference is they have a little more of that handoff side of stuff. So it doesn't have to be an enormous expense. It just has to be thought out just a little bit, and that's where we come in and help a little on that side.
And
It's
sorry,
definitely it's definitely worth having.
Yeah.
Everyone should have you guys come in and consult on their office. I mean, totally, because it saves you, money and time and aggravation in the long run. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, while kind of we're on that subject, and again, it's not always just about signal quality. That's one of the things that Chris and I always try to evaluate whenever we look at a job. We could have one access point that would cover an entire home, and that would be great. Just because you have great signal, that doesn't mean that everybody's getting a fair share of the pie. So, one device may give you that coverage, but again, how many devices are connected to that one access point? Because a lot of times that's what you'll run into limitations. The provider will bring you in a router modem combo, they'll set it in some corner of the home, and is everybody, oh, well, I've got 4 bars all the way across my house, I'm good to go. But when every single device in that house is connected to that one spot, that again is where you can run into a lot of issues. And again, having some multiple locations to where we're actually broadcasting, splitting up that traffic to where it actually goes to a couple different points in the system makes a big difference on a network. So it's not just about coverage, it's making sure that everybody has that proper piece of the pie so that they all get the same speed across the spectrum.
Very interesting. Is it better to be upstairs, downstairs? Where should this main thing be? In the center of the house?
Well, it'll vary from home to home, unfortunately. So, if obviously if you're going to rely on the provider's equipment, a lot of time it's the path of least resistance for them. They're going to want to put it in the easiest place where they can get in, get out. And then again, the speed that you're paying for from them is only good on the hardwired connection. So whenever they do
typically is in the worst closet.
Yeah.
They
odd
always put in the worst closet in the house. Yeah.
Exactly. Farthest away from where you need it or farthest away from the bedroom. But all they care about is the physical hardwired connection. So if you're paying for 500, they hardwire directly to it. As long as they get 500 there, that their job's done, they'll walk away. So that's where we come in, and then we help you actually get that spread out throughout the house. Because you definitely want to be wired wherever we can. It takes traffic off of the Wi-Fi, so things aren't relying on it. Because again, like I said, almost everything we have, if you've got 3 people in the home, okay, well that's a couple of devices. When everybody has 5 or 6 or 7 devices, their phone and their watch and their tablet and all these other things, it adds up very quickly to where it can really congest a wireless network if you're not, managing it properly. You don't have the proper equipment in place. And again, you always want to try and hardwire as many things as we can. One of those things that, I always tell my customers is when you think about it, you replace your phone every couple of years. People don't oftentimes think about their home network. So I pay for my provider and I bought this thing a couple of years ago from Best Buy and I plug these things in and it works just fine. Technology, especially in what we do, changes rapidly. We've got appliances now, microwaves, dishwashers, washer and dryer units that all tie to Wi-Fi as well now, so that we can control them with the convenience through an app. So again, there's just numerous things that we didn't really think of that are all eating up that wireless signal, and that can drain a network very quickly.
Oh my gosh, that's true. They're the new appliances that supposedly think for you and tell you when you're running out of milk. They're sucking that juice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. Well, speaking of putting this into a home, I'll tell you one thing that we're seeing a lot of on Candy's Dirt is actually homes advertising, first thing, dedicated home office. So that tells you something about the real estate community and what the needs are out there, that people are actually, agents are now advertising dedicated home office, where it used to be master bedroom on the first floor or, pool in the backyard. But now the most important thing is dedicated home office. So let's talk a little bit about and I think Mark, you'll be able to help, but you guys will too from Starpower, is how will this add value to a home, all of this? I mean, it seems to me like it's a tremendous addition to value.
Well, I can tell you this, like my accountant, I was scared to death forever thinking that I kept making my poor accountant drive an hour into work every day to sit in that office. And since we've been doing this for 60 days, it works. She's getting our job done and everything works. And so having a house that has a dedicated home office, I think it's going to be as important. If I can downsize my office space and she stays there, she can make a little bit more money. I'm happy. And then, but she's going to need a house to be able to move into. Does that make sense, Candy?
Yeah.
That if I say, okay, it's okay to stay at home, well, she's going to have that space. And so what you're seeing is this house does have that space. People are marketing it now. And so I think the dedicated home office is going to be a really important feature coming forward in the future houses that are built and also redesigned. And so
it's really going to help solve a lot of housing crises across the country. Now, we don't have to worry about, I mean, our home values have gone up tremendously and they're holding beautifully, I might say. But like, look at the Bay Area. Twitter has just said that everyone can continue to work from home. And so what that's going to do is that's going to say, oh, I can work from home. So guess what? I don't have to live here. I don't have to buy a baseline $2 million home, to live, to work at Twitter, and I can move anywhere. And that's going to free up more housing, which I think is going to really solve a lot of problems. What do you guys think? Don't you think that it's going to kind of make people more free to live where they want to live?
Yeah. You could be more remote. So you could, so if you wanted to live in Waxahachie and work in Dallas, you can live in Waxahachie and work in Dallas virtually and be there. So you can go get on a farm if you wanted to go get on a farm or Aspen.
We're going to get to our questions, but so guys with Starpower, tell me how many of these systems you're putting into second homes, vacation homes.
Quite a bit. And it's kind of one of those things where just out of creatures of habit, especially we do our job right and we get someone's house set up exactly where they're comfortable. You always want to replicate that. So it turns out we do a lot of secondary homes, a lot of vacation homes, and we do it so that it's a seamless aspect. You know where everything is, how everything works, everything's controlled. Nowadays, even that gets a little crazy because you can talk to your house and tell it what you want it to do. So that's always an interesting aspect.
I love that.
But it's and to Mark's respect, a lot of the plans that I'm getting in now that I'm working on for houses that are just breaking ground. It's not uncommon that there's a his and a her office now. We're seeing not just a study anymore. We're seeing his office, her office. We're seeing, and I think over years we've almost seen a little bit of that in a maybe off a game room or something where kids have a spot to sit down and do their homework from. So even though those kind of vanished for a little bit, I'm starting to see a lot more of that side as well. One of my clients, their house we just finished, they called it the Nerd Herd. And it's just a big room that has desks wrapped all the way around the room. And that's where the kids have to do their homework. They have their own dedicated desks and workspace. And, so there's a lot more thought being put into this. And like I said, just off a set of plans I got yesterday to start speaking, I noticed there's, instead of one study, there's actually 3 working spaces in that home.
Wow. The Nerd Herd.
The Nerd Herd.
That is going to be a new category in Candy's Dirt, guys. We're going to do the best Nerd Herd of the week. I love it. Okay. And before we get to questions, Chris and guys, do you want to tell me any more about how the Starpower companies can help you guys get the ultimate in-home office security, reliability, and functionality?
Sure. The interesting part with us here at Starpower is we're a group of businesses. So we have Starpower that Alan and I both work for, and that's going to be your AV side. So we can help with getting your network set up, getting your AV site set up, and making sure we can help you tie in so you can do a home office and do your video conferencing and have the cameras. And the other side we kind of touched on, and there was some question with, and you even mentioned it, is we do sound masking. So we can help on a couple of different areas of that. We can help with sound absorption. So you can do some, like your picture behind you is beautiful. but we can actually have that replicated and done in a sound panel.
Ooh.
So there's some absorption side of stuff. So we do acoustic work as well. And most people really don't think of that much.
Yeah.
And then in an adjoining office, we can do sound dampening. So we have the ability to put up devices where we can basically make, if you want to think of it as a sound curtain to separate two rooms. So not only do you not hear the other room stuff, that none of your information transfers back and forth between you. And we do that. We started doing that many years ago on the commercial side. But a lot of that's now translated into doing it on the home side. It's called sound dampening. There's ways to do it, but that's one of the services we offer.
Can you train the dog not to bark?
You know,
because that's part of the problem too.
Right. If we had a whole house animal mute, that would be great.
Yeah.
I need a granddaughter mute because it's, you know, she'll peek out of nowhere. Locked doors. I don't know where she comes from, but she's standing there and she's, you know, needs chocolate milk. So it can be interesting even for myself sometimes. But with our side of being able to assist, you know, we mentioned if you're building an office, it may make sense. And if you're spending a lot of time in there, that you have a nice little built-in cooler, you know, to keep your water, your refreshments, the wine in case it's nearing the end of the day. But
not forgetting the wine giveaway.
part of our company products we are also Ed Kellerman Sons, who's been around in the appliance industry forever. They're a staple in the DFW area. So we have that flexibility of even offering it on the appliance side to help out. And then of course we do kitchens and outdoor stuff in that realm. And then we have Star Floors, Star Interior, our flooring department. So we can come in and, you know, and maybe that room that was nice tile and beautiful at one point is really not sound conducive to what you're doing nowadays. You may need a nice car or a nice we can assist with. And we have an interiors group. So we have our own interior designers, and we can actually take anything from conception through 3D rendering and build it. So it's a nice side of things, or it's almost our whole philosophy is if you can imagine it and dream it, we can make it. So that gives us the flexibility. And then working with guys like Mark who are awesome builders, it only helps because then we help each other make sure that the houses that we are putting together are just really set up for whatever you might need.
That's fabulous. And I love the way there's this intersection between appliances and technology. It's like, it's a natural intersection because there's so much technology in the appliances. They're no longer just, you know, spinner washers, you know. They all have these chips in them. Okay, I'm going to hop to our questions. And again, we're taking questions through the chat room. We have a lot. We have like 19. If we don't get to all the questions today, we will answer them. And of course, just tune into Candy's Dirt and we'll have all the information for you there. But what are some of the hardware solutions for better sound quality of calls and conferences?
So that, I mean, you can go kind of two ways with that. You know, the sound quality of things. Like today, you know, I've actually got a speaker set up here in my office that I actually use because again, I do a handful of demoing and testing for the equipment side of things. But I'm not just using the actual speakers on my laptop here today. I actually have an amplifier and some dedicated bookshelf monitors sitting on my desk to, again, give me better sound quality so that I can hear everything that's going on. So again, doing something along those lines, doing overhead speakers so that it is spread out throughout the room. So it's not just, you know, you get a little bit different product in there. It can actually absolutely help out with the sound quality of things. And then same thing, using an not necessarily an off-the-shelf microphone, but using something a little bit different than obviously what comes embedded in your equipment can have a huge impact on things as well. Like I said, you know, we do wireless microphones so that it's the same quality that presenters use whenever they're standing in a large concert hall and things like that. So there's definitely things you can go with there that can definitely help out with the sound quality and speech clarity. Doing digital sound processing as well. You know, again, as to what Chris was saying, is that you don't think about the way that the sound reflects off of those nice pretty windows that are behind you or this nice piece of artwork that's hanging on the wall. There's definitely acoustic treatments and things that we can do to help out with that. We've also done large call centers, and we'll do like white noise generators. So you kind of have that soft, kind of staticky sound playing in the background that actually really helps kill all that other ambient sound in the room. So you don't hear people that are, a couple feet away from you talking. You hear the kids or the dogs barking down the hallway. Here in Dallas, being right off the tollway, which luckily it hasn't been that bad lately, but all the traffic and all that noise that can come into it, we can really suppress all that sound, again, to kind of help out with the experience of being on these video conferencing calls that we have nowadays.
That's great. The blowers, you're on the, all of a sudden, coming in the blower. What can you tell us about, what can you do to tell us what appliance and device is using more wireless bandwidth or signal?
So we typically use, we've got a couple different devices. And it's, again, as the technology is developing and changing, those are starting to be built into a handful of the products that we actually use. So we use like a network monitoring device. And it actually kind of monitors all the devices that are physically connected to a network. And it can actually tell you which ones are the bandwidth hogs, which one's using the most bandwidth, who's uploading the most information, things along those lines. As well as on my side of things, we have some clients that we give 24-hour access to. It helps me monitor their systems and gives me notifications if devices fall offline. So if our main control system that runs the brains of the house falls offline, I can be proactive and reach out to them and say, hey, I see that we're actually having an issue with this device. Is everything working properly? So that we can actually give you that higher level of service that people expect. But there's routers that have these devices built into them. They have standalone products that you just plug into power and plug in on the hardwire, and it'll run speed tests for you every couple of hours, but it'll monitor the actual network itself and let you know, which devices are doing what. And again, as well as it being built into a lot of the routers that we use nowadays, to give us that level of information so that we can kind of figure out what's going on when certain devices don't connect properly, or again, it says I have good signal, but my calls are always dropping, or my conferences are buffering, my kids are, games are cutting off, things like that. That's, again, where we can step in and really get a good overview look of everything that's going on in order to kind of nail down the culprit on what's going on with the network.
There's a really cool deal that Alan's talking about. And this, as a layman, he doesn't know how cool it is because it's just normal work for him. But there's a hardware that when they install the system, he can go online and see what's on, what's off, how it's performing through it. And then at a touch of the button from he could be in Vermont or Tokyo, he can touch it and reset it and fix the system remotely by just looking at how it's performing. And so, like, if there was ever a problem, you call up their technical support, say, yeah, we do that. And then they fix it remotely by restarting whatever part that you would have no idea needed to be restarted. So it's really cool on that. And that helps. And when you get one that's misfiring or something, that can eat up your database too. It's like, it's taken a lot of, it's just not working properly. So it can lag your software system and lag your internet. And they have the capability of doing that, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's something that, again, is business is more for us, especially, again, on my side, on the service side of things. Yeah, that's something that I can't preach enough to. It's something that we actually require with a handful of our advanced systems, is to having some of that IP controllable. I can power cycle devices. There's a lot of different things that I can now do without having to physically be there,
Right.
and remotely have that capability. So if I'm laying in bed in the middle of the night, one of my clients, texts or calls me or something, and I can just jump on my phone and actually press a button and take care of those issues. So, I mean, it's a lifesaver for me, as well as a convenience that a lot of people that have become accustomed to. So it's
because there's so many, with everything being connected to the internet, if one messes up, it will shut down. It can make a log jam in the entire process. And so he can go online and look at it, fix it remotely, and it works great.
That's great. What are some, we started this whole thing out talking about security, and of course this horrible, scary ADP thing. What are some easily implemented solutions for better network security?
Again, on our side of things, you know, a lot of people think just because your provider brings the service into the house, that's good enough. You know, I've got my passwords changed and things like that, and they think that that's going to be good enough, but that's not always the case. You know, we always try to implement kind of our own network. Our motto is, you know, if we're going to be involved and we're going to sell you all this networking equipment, we want to own the network. You know, we want to make it our responsibility, you know, just like your IT department does at your company or your business. That is now our responsibility for you to make sure that everything is secure and working properly.
Good.
So, you know, we always put our own routers in. We'll put our own network switches in. We put in all of our own access points to help spread that the Wi-Fi capabilities out throughout the house. But again, that again adds another level of redundancy there. So that you've got your provider's network, and if people were actually able to get into that, they actually don't see anything that's on our side of the network, because there's another layer of security there, having a secondary firewall or router in place. So you've got two barriers to get through as opposed to just the one. And again, you know, you've got just a couple of providers in each one of the areas. So, you know, you're either going to get Spectrum or Time Warner cable, you're going to get AT&T, you're going to get Frontier, you know, something along those lines. Well, those are massively used. Those devices are massively populated, and people have figured out ways to get into those. But whenever we put in our products after the fact there, again, that just adds another level of security to, you know, keep people from doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And it keeps them from, you know, they may penetrate one wall, but they can't get into the secondary one. A lot of what we do as well is we'll set up guest networks. So that you actually have a network that you connect to. If somebody comes into your home, it's a totally secure. It gives them internet access, but they can't actually see any other devices that are on your network. So they wouldn't be able to scan and see your laptop and dig in to see what files that you physically have. Same thing with the kids. It just sets those boundaries and those separations up to keep everybody managed where they need to be, so that they can only see the things that they need to see. So
that is so great. I have one more question. I think, Mark, you might want to answer this, but as ever, if anyone else wants to jump in, should people who work from home full-time consider investing in a generator to ensure network uptime? I mean, I'm coming from the heart of Tornadoville here. We were so lucky, but you know, we woke up and on that day after the tornado, and we were so lucky we were spared. But you know, there was a lot of people who lost their network with the tornado in October. So
yeah, not even that tornado. 9 months before that, that storm went through University Park and took out all those people for 7 days. There's not many houses that we have on the books right now that we're not doing generators. So there's sort of a level of generators that make a small, medium, and large without getting technical. And it's about budget. So if you're thinking $9,500 for the small, 12 for the medium, and 15 to 18 for the large is what it would cost. And I would say that the small would run the garage. We've got it to where the garage door is important. You know, you got to get out. You got to be able to get out of your car out of the garage. Yes. Your refrigerator has to run so your food doesn't rot. Your security system has to run so you don't get robbed. And then we do the AV closet. Those are like the primary, so you can watch TV when you're in the dark. But then on top of that, we have enough power to run the AC for the downstairs, so you can move all the kids downstairs and you can run the whole downstairs with lighting and all that. And that would be a small generator, but I think it's critical. I think if you're planning a house up and coming up or doing anything, put a generator in, especially in Dallas, because it's so unstable with all the overhead lines, with the tree branch hitting one or anything coming up. That it's critical to do a generator. I saw some pop-up board about old houses.
Yeah,
they have. Generac has a program that I saw that you can go and add a switch gear in. And so the critical part is adding the part that tells the generator to turn on an older house. But on a retrofit, it can be done. You just need a natural gas line that is like a car engine that turns the generator. And then you put the electrical switch gear in so it can switch over and power the house. But just a small generator will run. You know, it really started originally was to get drainage, to keep pumps from houses from flooding. That's when we started doing generators. And so Alan and Chris offer like this backup program that has security to tell you that your house is about to flood.
Yeah.
Well, we were doing generators to make sure that they run. So that, but yeah, I think that's definitely critical to be able to be up and running just for convenience. I mean, it'll pay for itself in one storm.
Oh, totally. I love the garage door because that is
Yeah.
exactly where you get, you get stuck inside and you got to physically pull it up and put it down. And some of these doors are heavy. Mine's very
Heavy. Like, yeah, now these wood doors, we're making all these cedar doors. They're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the garage door is critical. So you can get, and gates, like the drive gates, and to make sure you get out of your driveway. I mean,
Right.
just that's the number one thing that we make sure that you can use.
Well, I'm going to ask all of you fabulous people. First of all, thank you so much. If I didn't thank you at the beginning, let me thank you right now, because I think this has been so just informative. I've learned so much. I'm sure everyone out there has, because again, our world has changed and we're adapting and we're all going to be working from home better than ever and more than ever. So if there's anything else you want to add that I missed, otherwise we're going to go to the drawing. So anyone out there got anything else to add? Ellen, Mark, Chris? No? You think
Only other thing, some things that, we've definitely seen a level of security, like you were saying, the office being at the front of the home, people walking in through the front door. Another thing that we also do is access control, to actually keep, again, mag locks, fingerprint readers, things like that, to keep people from even just gaining access into the home office and into that space.
very good.
I've got one more thing to add, Candy.
Yes.
I think the doorbell monitor, if you don't have a doorbell monitor, you ought to get one, because with Amazon and all this stuff and packages and all that, the doorbell monitor has been one of the coolest things that I've had, and one of the best things for security as a deterrent from someone to think that they can come get away with something. Meaning like they're easy as a Ring or a Nest or a couple of these doorbell monitors, but they work really well. They're really easy to integrate in, and you can get all your packages monitored and know when you're getting something and all that. So, because everything's being delivered now. I mean, everything.
Well, and that's kind of a whole nother Zoom that we need to do, is how you're redesigning the home. I've heard that there's like package areas that are under, like you've got little gate or something where the guy can put the package and it's hidden from view. I mean, there's just, again, our world has just changed because we're getting more and more delivered, and we all got stuff delivered during these last couple of months. I mean, ours certainly didn't stop, but no, thank you for all that. That has been very informative. And I know that people in this country and everywhere are going to make some big changes to their homes. And I hope they will go to you guys, because you're the total experts in this. And now it's time for wine. So I'm going to thank you guys once again as I announce the winners of our drawing. This was a tech drawing too. Everything was done through high tech. And I will announce that it's our first one is Joan Davis, and our second winner is Sherry Edwards. Our third winner is Michael Pigeon. Hi, Michael. Our fourth is David Tamura. Fifth is Lloyd Lumpkins. Then we've got Scott Wineline, Nikki Beneke, Suzanne Smith. Some of these names are very familiar. Dennis Burkett, Carol Kaiser, Beth Phillips, Lauren Larson, Susie Neal, Yvonne Guerra, Nancy Bamberger, Allison Hayden, Jean Culver, and Marie Graham. And we will tell you on Candy's Dirt how this is done, because I didn't do it. My wonderful Joanna England did the whole thing in her wonderful technological way, and I'm sure she will let me spill the beans a little bit. And also, any of the questions that we did not cover, we'll cover in a follow-up as we post this and get this out on the internet so everyone can see it. But I want to thank you all so much, whether you're at home, whether you're back at the office, whether you're at your home office. I hope you've learned a little something today about this wonderful, crucial room that is going to become now the most important room in the house, or maybe one of the most important, but certainly it's going to take a big lead, and it's going to move from the front foyer, right, Mark?
It will.
Yes. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and stay healthy, stay safe, and we're going to get through this, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.